My name is Azadeh Hariri and I'm the chair of ISF. I come from a very strong background of knowing that you have to be there and helping people and being part of your community. I was privileged enough to have a grandfather who was not only a philanthropist, but he always insisted that you should pay, as he used to say, your khums zakat to charities and to people who are not as lucky as you have been. ISF started 15 years ago. My daughter, who was applying for colleges, came to me and said that there is no scholarship and no funding for Iranian Americans. And she insisted that we as a community should start this.
My name is Mohammed Madaris, and I help start companies. I was born in Maryland, grew up in New York and New Jersey before I went to school in Baltimore at Johns Hopkins University. I studied public health and anthropology. I later went on to get my Master's of Science in Development Practice at Trinity College Dublin as a George Mitchell Scholar. When I was growing up, my parents, they were full-time students, but they made an effort for my sister and I to always have an atmosphere where we were constantly learning. I went to school during the peak of the financial crisis, so as a family we had a lot of fuzzy questions up in the air. I remember spending a lot of time just trying to find all these different scholarships. Then I found ISF. I clearly remember the moment when I received the ISF email. I was sitting at my kitchen table and the email popped up. I took a moment to understand what had happened before I screamed at the top of my lungs. Thanks to ISF, my education was never on the chopping board, and I was able to finish my studies and continue working and studying in Europe.
I knew Mr. Safipur and he was always there, wanted to start something for Iranian students.
When we met with Mrs. Hariri, we came up with the criteria for the students who should receive the scholarship. She didn't want it to be just California or just Northern California. She wanted to be nationwide. And that's how the whole thing started.
My name is Nina Mahjoub, and I am a structural engineer currently in Los Angeles. My parents, during the revolution, moved to France, and that's where I was born, and that's where I was raised for the majority of my life. After I graduated from high school, we decided to move to Los Angeles, and I first went to UCLA for my undergrad, where I got a bachelor in civil engineering, and then decided to go to Boston to get my master's at MIT in structural engineering. When I was going to UCLA, it was very hard for me, obviously, to pay my fees, especially as an international student. And I had to work almost full-time while being an engineering student, and so I just couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Dr. Mahmoudi, who was a family friend, told me about ISF. At first, I just didn't believe that there was such an organization that could help me and support me. When I saw the email, obviously I read it 10 times, and then I called my mom, and I called my sister and my father, and then they called their sister and their brother and their cousin, and everybody was on it. I think that if I had not been supported by ISF, I just would not have had the chance to do all the other activities that I was doing, and I would have been a completely different person.
We were very lucky that Dr. Milani also wanted to join our scholarship and help us with the selection of the students.
And one of the hardest days of the year for me is really the day when we decide on who these winners are, because from a few days before we begin to read these applications, and they are almost to the last person. Brilliant students, sometimes with heartbreakingly difficult lives.
My name is Parisa Mantegi. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Baker & McKenzie, where I practice in the area of international tax. I was born and raised in the United States. I grew up in the Bay Area. When I was 10 years old, my mother collapsed. My family at that time in the mid-90s became the face of the healthcare crisis in America. I knew immediately I had to grow up very quickly. I didn't want to burden my family with the cost of education. In my freshman year of college at the University of California, Davis, I was looking to take advantage of every scholarship opportunity I could, and it just never seemed enough. And then I came across the Iranian Youth Scholarship. I put everything I had into it. And after several weeks, I opened my email one day and I saw that I had received it. And it meant that every summer I didn't have to worry about getting a summer job to get by. That summer, right after I got the scholarship, I interned for United States Senator Barbara Boxer. And the following summer, I was able to study abroad at the University of Oxford. I can only hope that she's proud of where I am.
To me, the ISF recipients are just like my own kids, and I treat them as such. I want them to achieve the best they can achieve, and I know they know that I'm behind them 100% for any need that they have.
ISF is in many ways another Iranian mom or dad.
It's not just a faceless check you get in the mail once a year.
They were a second family, and they supported me financially, emotionally.
Every time you accomplish something, I tell my father, I tell my sister, my family, and then I tell ISF.
Technically, ISF stands for Iranian Scholarship Foundation, but to me, it also stands for I'm so fortunate.
That's something special and something big. I mean, it's a big one. There were small scholarships here and there, but this was big. This was a sizable group of scholars.
We are well over 300 students that we have covered in the last 15 years, 16 years.
Because of the educational opportunities I got in undergrad, assisted by ISF, I was able to then get a job at one of the largest nonprofits in the country, the American Civil Liberties Union, where I was a legal assistant. And then because of that opportunity, I was able to get into Stanford Law School. And I think I can see a direct line between my performance in undergrad and being able to be funded by ISF and the subsequent successes I've had in my careers, whether it be at the ACLU or at Stanford Law School or as a clerk for a federal judge.
I think it's probably one of the few, if not the only, scholarship that I know of that every cent, literally every last cent that everyone contributes goes directly to students.
واقعا دستشون در نکنه.
That one of the key reasons I was in that position with the doors of the world open to me was because of my fairy godmother, Mrs. Hariri.
This will grow to such extent that hopefully in next 10 years we will have a president of the United States who has been part of ISF.